Much. Now recognize my good friend from Colorado for any questions he may have for the panel.
I thank the chairman and thank Mr. Peters and Mr. Wahlberg for their testimony and appearing before the committee, and I'll keep my remarks brief. Would just simply say that obviously, Mr. Wahlberg, we have a difference of opinion as it relates to your bill and the efficacy of the rule that has been promulgated for all of the reasons that Mr. Peters articulated. I guess I'd like to zero in on a broader issue that my colleagues here on this committee know I often bring up, which is the prioritization of what we consider on this committee and as a body in the House. Long-winded way of saying, this, I understand, is this your first appearance before the Rules Committee this year? Have we been here before?
No, it's
I
not.
can't.
No.
It's not. What bill were you here prior on? Do you recall?
Oh, I forget which one it was. I've been here numerous times.
All right. Well, I would simply suggest that as I consider the bills that have been passed by the House, this 118th Congress, that have been ultimately approved by the Senate, and that have been signed by the President, I am left with the distinct impression that this will go down as one of the least productive Congresses in the history of our country. And that impression is backed up by the data. You'd have to go back to the early 1930s to find a Congress that has been more productive than this particular Congress. And the reason why I am focused on this and wanting to engage with you a bit, Mr. Wahlberg, on this topic is because I think we all know, notwithstanding your feelings about this particular bill and your passions and my position on this bill is not going to become law, right? I mean, you clearly know this bill won't become law. The Senate's not going to pass the bill. The President has already issued a threatened veto of the bill to the extent that the Senate were to pass it. So this is not going to ultimately become law. Fair enough? I understand you disagree with that outcome, but I don't, you're not here to tell us that you think this is going to be signed into law. What about the party line vote out of committee suggests to you that this is going to be signed by President Biden?
I work on the optimistic principle that good legislation ultimately wins people over, and I've seen that. I've seen that even in this Congress. So.
Okay, well, you are more optimistic, I think, than the facts should suggest in this scenario. And the reason why I say, Mr. Wahlberg, because I've looked and I know you have shepherded and championed bipartisan pieces of legislation in the past. You've worked with your colleagues on a wide range of subjects to get bills across the finish line to the President's desk for his signature. And I think you know, given that experience, that this bill clearly is not going to have that same fate. And I would simply suggest to you something that I have suggested to my colleagues here on this committee, which is I'd like to be able to actually consider bills that we believe will ultimately become law. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's do the hard work of legislating, of governing, of working together to find a resolution. This isn't it. And it's why, at the end of the day, we find ourselves in a Congress that's the least productive since 1931. Right, since the days of Herbert Hoover and the Great Depression. That's the last time that a Congress was as unproductive as this Republican-led Congress is today. I'd like to find a way out of that logjam. And both of the members, I think, sitting before us today in the Rules Committee happen to be people who work on a bipartisan basis with their colleagues. So I would just suggest to you, I hope, the next time the Speaker or the leadership comes to you with a request to come before the Rules Committee on another bill, because, of course, we love hearing from you, that perhaps you suggest to them, you know what, maybe we can go with this other bill that actually has bipartisan support that we think can get across the finish line, because I know you have many of them, and I'd love to take those up, and not one that I know is just not ultimately going to be ready for prime time. So with that, I yield back, Mr. Chairman. I thank both gentlemen for their time.
Thank the gentleman. Gentlelady from Indiana is recognized.